Hello, my name is Anthony Wall. This is not critical of the police, it's critical of their predicate acts and roles and methods of them. Multiple police departments with Wethersfield Police since I was a kid. When I was a kid and now as an adult, they attached me and others to fake conversations with them that weren't at all, fake transcripts. And the kids who did go down there and speak with them, which I was not one of them, they wanted me to go down there and speak with them because they wanted me to put fake ties and fake natures of ties to me with a Chris Walters. Well, I didn't even have, they put him in a car with me, then wanted me to go to the police station to make it look like I didn't even have a conversation with him. He had roles with people that are increasingly planting evidences with multiple police departments that are also switching and forging names. And they're covering up. They already had collusions with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. The news at the same time. Criminal enterprises and people next to body don't make spots, not even associated with those cases. And the interbranch intelligence tied to them. And other at the same time involved. And a breaching method connecting all that. Their use of location /s everywhere everywhere the human species body has a body. And this is relative to where and to how. Everyone left out and replaces both what nature communicates with black pupils, whites of eyes. Revelations, a whole bunch of things it communicates. In other words, please get me off the fake conversations with WFSB. A bunch of people tied to Gail King. I don't know her at all, and her relatives have roles and people tied to her. Have roles on and off with people, intelligence at Central Connecticut State University, involved with the former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, with Saudi Arabia, and a bunch of people named Mendez and DeMoro, who have collusion /s with people from other areas. I never saw a Mendez on my street in my life. I never saw him. I never had a class with them. No, they walked by me. One of them walked by me once, and I never had a word of conversation in my life. And then he pretended to be, I had words with him at the Wethersfield police station. And my Saudi friend was there. And that was filmed. I didn't have one word with him. That was also his form of communicating to me, other than he's communicating and pretending it's debatable, which was also confessions there as roles with other officers that put multiple falsified police reports and changed the arresting officers' names. They put charges and fake transcripts as their roles with extortion. Since I was a kid, people from other classes that I didn't even know and try to make at all, and people that I just walked by, I remember the names from other people. Roles putting falsified police reports, fake ties, fake nature ties with people from private schools and other city schools, and collusions with the people tied to the retired Wethersfield police chiefs and their family members and intimate ties. They even have to hide live progressions on Facebook. Facebook has collusions with the FBI and with all sides of criminal and civil cases internationally. See suits and ties, counters, exceptions, speak about jobs, why people need food and everything like that through systems abridged. You guys have self-valued roles replacing what our founders had declassified to be communicated for themselves. And for why and how, the only founder that we know the name of is James Madison. You guys act like George Washington. Now it's going to be democracy. Slavery was entrenched. George Washington wanted nothing to do with it. All exception near nature that appeared to be a demonstration of other. They had to hide the roles of who they were, how they were actually, and why they were actually countering, which that was only part of it. You guys won't even allow people to be honest about George Washington's extortion, just knowing that he was extorted and that he would direct us to communicate about that and be honest about it. He had to leave entrenched in Connecticut, roles with northern colonies and southern colonies, with slavery, even. And then you're going to listen there. It was to get rid of tyranny. It was to get rid of T-tax. Everyone was child abused. Yeah, you guys, this breaching method knew that little kids would be able to discern this is not human. The suburbs are designed to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. People to need food and resources from other locations. People for known reasons, but you guys missed what's juxtaposed with this. Why we don't say anything about how our founders and nature itself left means for us to understand that and how why we're not supposed to respect jobs, titles as worth they are not. They are bridge systems. We had no wealth. We had no country not that long ago. And the only reason we have founders is because James Madison counter-extorted everyone and forced them to break the laws and the rules, not just of internationally monitored conversations, monitored to make sure everyone was maintained, collusion/S against themselves and against others to an extent, against Native Americans against Native Americans too. And then America's founders were born. And see President Chef/Chief, because every Native American is our founder's king. The only one we know the name of specifically that was a colonist is James Madison. But see President/Chief. So please, and someone tell presidents from before the World Trade Center attacking in, please, from President Trump, President Bush. There's also a leader syndrome. It's not just Trump delusional syndrome. It's leader. The delusions, though, you can't go by what people say because each age of campus is involved with the communications racketeering, worse than war crimes. Increasingly, Wethersfield mayors and Connecticut mayors and their family members and ties to themselves have timed collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, and news at the same time. And Hartford Hospital with people at other hospitals. These triages have mental experts. See, we obviously, with all these problems, we're going to need people to discern what's real from what's not. They are delusions wrought. They're experts on it, and they're criminally foreign influenced. They're putting fake transcripts at Hartford Hospital with a bunch of people named Leahy. One of them was apparently trying to make herself look like a patient. And they have a bunch of patients that are, even if they were intelligence, they're implying they're intelligence because they were saying things to make it look like I was part of it. Then when people go back and look at records, there are a whole bunch of fake transcripts and conversations and ties to people and evidences mixed with truth that people were there and they said things around people. I didn't even respond to them. So a bunch of people at Hartford Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut, inter and intra-cities, and next to campuses, they have roles with untimely deaths years apart, which also brings up hyper-evidential. How are you? Ron Adams. This is another one who said the name Ed Powell. I don't know who Ed Powell is. He has been fabricating evidences. He said he was at a wedding with a Judge Napolitano. A Joe DeMoro and a John DeMoro said that they have others in their family and themselves and then their neighbors involved with Eric Mendez. And there's a Mendez intelligence family involved also with overt criminal enterprises and private ones and child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart, first forest. And there's a retired police chief from Wethersfield, like a police chief Cintron. And his family, there's a Jessica Cintron. I never saw her in my life, never was around her. A Jessica Cintron is reportedly involved with a modern pastry and a Mazzucato bakery with people who use my name with them. Involved also with them with the news, planted with other people I don't even know at all. I don't know them at all either. In other words, but I know that a Marano family is involved with it, with predicate acts on my street per other people, whether his roles with the predicate acting it or not. He has wrongdoing roles with it and sequence shifts roles with it. A bunch of people at New Britain Superior Court and Connecticut's District Court and Hartford courts before and after the World Trade Center attack affected confessions to me by Eric Burgess. Involved also as people intercities and intra-cities with foreign and domestic military, and next to fire campuses and child campuses. And they have a house next to both of those at the same time. Also, not far from a religious spot, where they have religious spots also, where this breaching method employs, like, for example, where our founders left us and what nature itself shows us to show a breaching method is what caused sickly distinctly all differences, like Native American difference, the difference of the tribe, hurt and or helped, and both of that too. The difference of that is used by hyperforeign because the new nature is going to demonstrate criminal and seditious natures of positive and negative treatments are being used to screen other things. And the breaching method's identity of relationship to ourselves. Even the identity of a breaching method, every identity has relativity to positive and negative simultaneously, and to a quality of diffusion that comes with the rest, a third part that comes with the, because, for example, the identity that is generating totally different individual species bodies is generating them as a whole bunch of individual bodies made up making up an individual species body. So we could, and there are other individual species bodies, and each one of them is made up of a whole bunch of individual bodies. So we could discern the individual identity of value progression. That also has relativity to a special difference. And as the hyperperfect system also further positive onto itself, where every identity is relativity positive and negative simultaneously, but is further equality of diffusion, further positive or negative only, and with exceptions, exception nature, and demonstration of the same thing, and about a special difference, how nature uses it. Earth has an special difference that is our own, but distinctly from the other species bodies. Humanity is the only one that has stayed criminally foreign influenced all this time. That's the only reason all this time. We're only one little species body. That's the only reason it took so long for us to start seeing the signs. It's wasting Earth. Everyone, the Earth's a special difference too. The whole ocean is polluted. Everyone needs food and water now through systems, tactical theory of the nature, how nature communicates with what's going to cause positive and negative value nature progression. The ancients, more probably, most scientific and demonstrably, they cultivated and propagated what naturally revealed that they all loved, like clean water. And then people come into this and go, oh, war. You guys don't even have the Civil War explained right. Harvard Hospital has roles with foreign and domestic military families. Demorals Market, where it is now and where it used to be, next to Harvard Hospital. They have roles also with an ILO's Kitchen and a Joseph Aiello and his family involved next with businesses and locations next to Trinity College and with people associated with Central, and that's in Hartford, Connecticut, and people with Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, involved with him with child abusers, leaders of kids. I never had a class with him in my life. The only time I saw him on a campus, he was planting fake ties, fake nature, fake exception. That's one of the things that connects them, of him knowing me. He has roles with his sister and her intimate ties with people next to Trinity College with the fire department, involved with agencies that planted also evidences, fake ties, fake nature ties to me, acting so other people could film that and sequence shifts with the John Maiano. I never knew a John Maiano until my grade graduated. And I was supposed to graduate, and the teacher who held me back, I never had a word of personal conversation with her. Nor the second time I took a speech class the next year, I had to stay back. Increasingly, those people are involved. with people with Washington, D.C., and people with the corrections offices of Connecticut and the judicial branch offices involved with all kinds of organized crimes, wire crime, mail crimes, drugs crimes, medicines crimes. Their roles pretending that they're trying to keep like a whole bunch of intelligence families tied to a Heather Hansen and sexual circles that made confessions about that. She wasn't even in my grammar school. Increasingly, people from my grammar school have been forcing a Heather Hansen and others on Church Street to collusions with people involved with the name Kerr and tomorrow at the corner of Church Street and Main Street. And they're forcing people with other corners on that street to collusions with them. Also, a Judge Smith and others with the name Smith have roles with their patients and doctors at Hartford Hospital and lawyers there, putting fake transcripts in databases, all kinds of federal evidences, crimes, and predicate acts roles. They have their family members of judges involved too with digital crimes and whiting forensics and medical and sexual offenders of kids associated with the Judge Killian and his roles with his family members that reportedly live near him. He's a probate court judge involved with some proven child abusers, leaders of kids years apart. And their roles with Facebook too, changing and faking digital evidence is also with the FBI. Increasingly, a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people involved with wire crimes with them with the Wethersfield police and Hartford Hospital. Also digital crimes with their Facebook pages and their lawyers and their roles with other hospitals, UConn. Please, UConn, follow mandated law for them. Get me up. A bunch of people with the name Lombardo, too, involved with the Department of Transportation and Department of Motor Vehicles. Also, people with the name Perone and Kerr. Also, further with an officer, Jerry Miller, on Facebook, and with an inspector, Mike, and people from Russia with the name Peruta, who have been planting evidences on all sides of my house with fire departments that are refusing to identify themselves legitimately. And they're putting records of what goes on with instances as collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and people inter-campuses and intra-campuses, and people pretending that they wanted to need to have debate about, oh, but I'm an inspector. See, the FBI directors in the background, also with other agencies that we're going to have to go into more because you guys are, the ground use of location /S and people from other areas planting evidence on my street and intra-cities, where I lived in other areas too, saying people tied to it. People that lived here years ago named O'Brien are increasingly involved with the New Britain Superior Court, Harper Courts, and the District Court with a Rick Ciampaglione, who sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. A Leahy family is involved with him with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me. I didn't even have a class with him in grammar school. And people were putting their roles with the uses of right to lie, directions to lie to others of the same groups. And those people are going to see them. So in other words, they're involved with a whole bunch of different countries and overt criminal enterprises, private ones. So Wethersfield Police Department fakes transcripts there and fake ties to me with this older Mendez police brother. And his brother tried to make fake exception of knowing me in 8th grade with people increasingly involved with the state judicial branch offices and people with the name Casper and Gold, a former mayor Gold, and a former mayor associated with a Ruth and her roles next to the state capitol, next to the, next to the state board of education with overt criminal enterprises and private ones associated also with a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people involved with proven past and further recorded past and further child abusers, leaders of kids, and abuses of their own kids too. This is a method. So all you have to do is follow mandated law. A bunch of people tied to a Joe DeMauro with the FBI and people with the name Scalora, that Wethersfield police, when I was a kid and then as an adult, have predicate acts with them. They forge names and switch names too. Interbranch. They're refusing to identify themselves legitimately. Joe DeMauro, years before the World Trade Center attack, and people with the name O'Brien have roles with people that worked at the World Trade Center, and have roles with courts and prisons and the state judicial branch office and corrections offices of Connecticut as people collusion/us with the names at and next to the World Trade Center, the morning before the World Trade Center attack, the night before it, and long term before the World Trade Center attack. The same ones involved since it to hide it, like with WTNH. WTNH sources, they have ones named O'Neill involved with the campuses in West Hartford and with people with their kids in Wethersfield campuses, with sexual and medical offenders involved with intelligence families and interim-branch families' kids. There are ones with the name Leahy and Brian Silver who have like prosecutors and judges involved with this Leahy family, putting fake conversations with people at Hartford Hospital, and all kinds of medicines and drugs crimes, identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shifts, mail crimes, wire crimes, whole methods of them, and as their collusion/us with names of houses like a Mayano family and the family next to the Hartford Hospital with a house per John Mayano, who sought me out to make confessions, demonstrations of his roles with such. Also a Brian Bonin. I only know him, he has roles with they have roles with like drugs and the different types of drugs and medicines and like psychedelics and the countering bodies of the Eastern States Narcotics Drugs Task Force has people named Cololo and Brian Bonin involved with some sexual and medical offenders of kids and their roles with unmarked police forms, foreign and domestic military, and neighbors of a Brian Bonin, like named Fazina, are further involved with the Board of Education. And a Jeffrey Cassio will tell you I never had a conversation with Jeffrey Cassio. The only time I was near him, Brian Bonin sought me out to work fast, demonstrate, confirm he has roles with wire crime acts and methods and police that said that he has roles with a Joe DeMore Ray Claw with some mescaline and other psychedelics, with a Rick Cianfaglio and a Brian Silver and a Leahy family, and their roles with ones at next to the state corrections offices, at and next to the state judicial branch offices, all sides of the Connecticut of the Wethersfield Community Center. Their roles with the Wethersfield town offices too, and probation officers years apart with different things got involved with connected murders and untimely deaths. And then bringing up all this stuff and keeping people's mouths shut because they already had collusions interbranch at the same time with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. And they're mixed with a whole bunch of other countries in ways that they're not supposed to tell, but they tell on it when they demonstrate it. But they more than demonstrated, they communicated. The police are like these. When the Wethersfield police communicated to me, they have predicate acts with people named Scalora and Mendez with the Saudis that they also forced collusions. And that was also forced by worse than that. So you guys keep going for guilt, leaving out your own guilt. And so everyone can only hear that. You're supposed to go on the acts. They're changing what people say when we mention predicate acts that are important ones. You don't attach people to fake conversations about the World Trade Center attack, dump all these fake organized crime acts. There are, wire crime acts, mail crime acts, identity theft, fraud, slanders acts. Then they're going to go speak on such related topics. They're going to charge the people for being scammed with debit cards, etc. Get down. I'll gather around. And home identity theft, get down. You guys are missing what's simultaneously recorded. You guys have valued jobs and titles and differences. Tactical terror from who could defend that and afford to have discerned what our founders and what nature shows us about how the breaching method used differences black people. We're not supposed to teach about black people's whites of eyes. I mean, are those colors, leaving out how a breaching method reassigned with nature communicates with black and white here. Clear. Hyper clear vaccines. So Ron Adams has been saying fake things. Oh, but it's just online because they have readings of statutes and precedents that are criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. They have sequence shifts too, where they give themselves the benefit of the doubt at the last second. So offensively, they just say, "Oh, I hear nothing, see nothing, hear no evil, see no evil." Even online. That's why we have mandated law obligated not people not to change and fake and hide what people say about child abuse acts. And don't pretend I had a conversation with this Peruta family. They're also increasingly with the retired police chief Cintron, involved with corners of streets on Elm Street and Rocky Hill and Wethersfield, with his family intimate ties with the same house slash S, also with their educators and people with the parallel streets involved with them. They'll tell you. I was only but I never had a problem with that. All exceptions point to their collusion slash S with the people putting fake things in the databases at the campuses I went, and sequence shifts, and then with the interbranch forging and switching names. It's recorded how whole careers are kept criminally for influence, tactically delusions wrought, incapable of affording proper fact treatments by anything, let alone by the law. It will show what really is recorded hyper evidentially. What really their value is and the relativity of it to what really is the problem's worse, where there are killings like in Hartford, Connecticut. The founding locations in Wethersfield and Hartford across the country. You guys have other communicated for them than our founders left to have communicated for those places. George Washington had to come to Webb House, now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum, to counter-extort, to force people to help us win the last battle of the Revolutionary War, for example, and break laws, not just of the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, terrorists, only propagated, only allowed to be, are capable of being, and internationally monitored conversations. The difference of that, too, they all had rules because they would all be hurt too if everyone they're all using systems slash S tactical terror. Everyone would speak for humanity anyway. We are a human species, body of individual bodies, all group differences per it. Otherwise, it demonstrates that we are using systems other than its own. This breaching method knew that nature would be demonstrating that way. It knew also it contain demonstrations that to humanity, for example, a human fact-treating nature breaching method is one of the things that all those crazy laws against the different types of human differences, male, female, Native American, Northern, all those differences were played by a breaching method, but through ourselves. People were only allowed to be collusion with such, and the internationally measured conversations measured and maintained collusions with that, and counters to it as collusion slash S2. That's why and how too the difference of their guilt with that or the overt criminal enterprise, so no one could discern while they're making subject treatments. We'll discuss the next topic, and with passions and emotions too. The little rat trap they only allow people to be roles with. Fix the fake news. So Connecticut networks and other natures of journalists. There are ones tied to a Tom Perone, a Danielle Perone, and she had roles with different boyfriends, like one named Mark Violet. Has roles with military on Elm Streets in Rocky Hill and Wethersfield, and roles with people at a corner of the street they live near. Increasingly, too, with a Mr. Hagenbar, involved with the confessions of others. I never had a personal conversation with him. Like barely, trying to make an exceptional short sentence. And I only went there too, more so to play football. Was learning about things that are connected to the confessions from strangers, and right where and how they're pretending it's not confessions, but we're going to go by communications. So Wethersfield police have been confessing things, communicating things, because they've been attaching me to fake conversations with themselves and with Saudis, They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with them interstates. Them and the intelligence tied to them did. They completed that. But also they did it in state after the World Trade Center attack too. The Wethersfield police have collusions with a bunch of other countries, including people from Saudi Arabia. And Central Connecticut State University in the Britain Superior Court has a bunch of people involved with Eric Mendez and his older brother, involved with all kinds of natures of organized crimes, and names that were involved on my street with them with that. Also at elderly homes, and as ones involved with years apart, proven child abusers, leaders of kids, and they're the families that are roles with that, with all kinds of mass identity theft, fraud, slanders. In the fake conversations they had with me, they said I pretended that I said that everyone's evil, and they know that they prevent mandated law and people from getting a response because they already painted themselves in corners and had themselves painted into corners. Interbranch. Multiple courts are involved with Hartford Hospital personally and professionally with people named Leahy. And get them off the fake conversation with me onto paper. They have a Leahy and Michael Emmett is one of the people further with the Board of Education with some sexual and medical offenders of kids and hiding what I recorded and with the principal even confessed to me over the phone. And they have an O'Neill family, an educator from West Hartford, who's also involved with their kids. And the kid of a Leahy family, a daughter of a Leahy family, is on Facebook involved with them, with a whole bunch of people with whiting forensics in the Facebook page of a principal upskirt nature. They have even worse organized crimes roles with him, forcing that before it was caught. And since, and with people at Sandy Hook prisons that have rules with with the crime scenes of their and a body dumping spot tied to a serial killer with them, who had time collusions with the principal upskirt nature that the prison also forced before he was caught, and they have relative delusions and threats of murder. too. Having me look over and see a sheet that was tied to a bedpost. In other words, I can't even get them out the paper. I wasn't even. I was just. They gave me a huge bond and forced me into prison for 6 months. And then when I come out, I saw Mendez there. And increasingly, Mendez is involved with people involved with, per them, with home break-ins in my area. I don't know if he was in part of the home break-ins, but different people associated with a sexual circle involved with a Joe DeMoro. And he has all kinds of wire crime acts and methods, intercities, with people next to Hartford Hospital involved with his educators too, and his roles with the home break-ins. And the wire crime acts and methods and falsified police reports of Wethersfield police involved with that. And with the same house with retired police chiefs, plural. And with the location /S where they moved from the new people in the house, who also have an extended family member named Phil Cololo. And the interbranch are refusing to have this done in a private way in writing. And while they're pretending other, because they already use privacy for lying about their motivations, trying to use the truth for lie, though, in their roles with sequence shifts. So an O'Brien family and a Cololo family, years apart, they have roles with a whole bunch of people I don't know, with the corners of the streets of the campuses. Rick Sanfaglione and others involved with interstates, with triages, have been planting evidences on Highcrest Street at the corners of the street, also with the Russians involved. And this is nothing against Russia. This is Russians against their own there too, though, with psychiatry. And God bless you, my Russian shadowboxing fans. In Ukraine, we are a human species body in a semi-ancient trap being demonstrated to us. But those demonstrations, the breaching method that came from before modern religious messengers, already had the sciences breached, suits and ties, exceptions. They speak about negotiations, trade agreements. They speak about trade, pretending trade was ever not collusion /S. Not just America was forced to begin as a country while a breaching method was entrenched and rolls with it. Everyone collusions against everyone else to an extent and against themselves to an extent. Otherwise, that body was sensed and it was adapted to, including if the body was a majority of people, including if it was everyone. That was capable of being that and maintaining that because everyone was collusions against each other, so no one could be a nature of unity. Or simultaneously, no one could be a nature of independence necessary to overcome the breaching methods, remote possession / esopac, human nature, quality aspects of nature in place of what both nature and our founders communicated black pupils. Period. Who disbelieves, get them on paper, one name and sequence, please. And they're going to bring up these subjects. Get them on paper. Get them on paper.